instruction, golf news, equipment, travel, interviews, course profiles, and more. Your weekly fix of all things golf is about to begin. It's the Flagstick Podcast with your hosts, Jeff Bauder and Scott MacLeod.
Well, welcome golfers to the inaugural first episode of Flagstick Podcast, presented by TaylorMade Golf Canada, introducing Stealth with carbon face for better energy transfer and more ball speed. Welcome to the carbon wood age. To learn more, visit tailormadegolf.ca. Well, I am your host, or at least one half your hosting crew, Jeff Bauder, publisher of Flagstick Golf Magazine and flagstick.com. And with me this episode and all episodes beyond is my very good longtime friend, Scott MacLeod. Scott, it's here.
It's here.
The day is here.
Kind of excited to get this started. It's been a few weeks since I've been doing any podcasts, even guesting, hosting, or whatever. And yeah, kind of excited. We've talked about this for a long time. I think 2009, we actually talked about an annual general meeting. We talked about doing a podcast. We've done a bunch of different episodes, little things before where we're on trips and things like that, but not a full-on podcast. So excited
and not
to get
together.
Started. No, not together.
Like,
yeah.
We've done podcasts separately,
yes.
Under the Flagstick banner for a while, and now we're finally getting the chance. I gotta say, I mean, I got the belly flutter going on here, and I don't know why. It's not like I've never done this before. It shouldn't, the nerves shouldn't be quite as bad, but it's just got the butterflies going, and just really, really excited to get going with this thing.
Yeah, I think the thing is, when you look back over the history of things, I mean, you had a radio show for a while, Fairways and Flagsticks on CFRA in Ottawa, and then obviously we both guested on numerous shows, be it on TSN, CBC, whatever, many times. But it's always interesting when you're kind of doing your own thing. And as you mentioned, you had the 613 Golfer podcast, which was a regional focus that you were doing. And I had been doing the T-Talk podcast for the last 3 years. It was fun and everything, but now we're sort of coming together and doing our thing together in the vein of Flagstick. And, people might not be familiar with everything Flagstick. Some people are, but obviously the publication's been around for 25 plus years now. And, we've been doing it that whole time, and we've been friends for 30 plus years. So I'm excited to get going as well.
It's been a crazy run, and it's a progression too. And it's, I hate using the word pivoting all the time, but this is just the nature of the way things have gone over the last couple of years. Is we really have as a media entity, and particularly as a regional media entity in golf, to change direction so many times in the last couple of years and sit and talk about, okay, what's the next step? What do we have to do? What's the right moves to make, for ourselves and also for our marketing partners that we've had for years. And doing this podcast the way we're doing it, or the way we're going to go about doing it, seemed to be the most logical direction for us to go.
Yeah, and people want to have information, stories, and so forth, and they want to have it delivered in different ways. And we've continued to progress over the years, as you mentioned, starting with a print publication, go to a website, and then, bursting onto the scene as far as our social media stuff and doing that. I mean, Twitter, I think 14 years now, 67,000 tweets in that sort of neighborhood.
It's crazy.
Digital publications, all sorts of different things. And you're right, this is sort of the next evolution for us, providing coverage, providing stories about, things that are happening locally, regionally, within Canada as well, all about the golf scene. And, being able to deliver it this way, it's fun too. And I think the listeners and the viewers, because obviously we have a few different formats here, I think it's going to be a fun time.
Yeah, I do too. And so with that, why don't we, we're going to get into some things a little bit later on in the first part of the podcast. But why don't we kind of set up how this podcast is going to work, what the format, because it really is kind of a merging of the best of both worlds, from T-Talk and from 613 Golfer, into one podcast. And there's going to be some components of the podcast that are going to be pretty much regular segments. And then there's going to be obviously some other things that we'll add in. But, I guess one of the first things is that the first part of every podcast that we do, for the most part, is going to be what we call the front nine. And the front nine is kind of a discussion point. It's, things that have gone on over the past week, maybe even a little bit, that things that we might have missed from one podcast to the next. And, just some general discussion about golf throughout the region, throughout the province. We'll touch on things across the country, but what else are we going to be, what else are we going to be focusing on?
Yeah, I mean, there'll be a lot of news stuff that's involved there. Some coverage of different things that are happening with different associations, be it, the LPGA, Golf Ontario, Golf Quebec, Golf Canada, PGA of Canada, PGA of Ottawa, all those sorts of things in that front nine. Any news stories that are coming out of golf courses, openings, human resource changes as far as staffing, events. We obviously, we attract a number of top quality events to the region that we're in, and we are based in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. And you know what? There's always something to talk about. We have some great things like the CP Women's Open coming this year to Ottawa. We've got the Canadian Junior Girls Championship coming to Ottawa this year. So we'll always have some content coming from those things, different stories. And obviously that'll play out too into our interviews that we may or may not feature on the podcast.
Exactly, yeah.
Including those, and that'll be all part of the content. And I think people, if they get to be familiar with flagstick.com and go to our website and see that, they'll see we cover a wide range of topics. And you know what, we're going to just provide a different venue to be able to talk about those and discuss them, share some more points beyond just the headlines.
Exactly. And obviously one of the things that over the years we've become very known for is our knowledge, your knowledge in particular, but our knowledge overall of golf equipment and products that are on the market. So we're going to have a section or a segment called Product Watch that kind of mimics, again, a lot of what the podcast is going to feature on a regular basis, kind of lines up with what we have done in the magazine over the last 25 years and what we continue to do on flagstick.com. We'll also obviously feature the lesson tee with Kevin Haime and some instruction every single episode as well. And we're going to have some guests on. Now, we may not have guests every single episode. It really depends on, what we want to do, what we have to talk about, what ends up being in the front nine. But we're going to have some interesting guests on from show to show. And, I think it's just going to be all around. I think people are going to get a good variety of what's going on in the golf world. And I think they're going to be really excited by a lot of the stuff that they hear or that they see if they happen to be tuning in on the YouTube channel.
Yeah, for sure. And, being able to deliver it both in audio on, Apple, Spotify, platforms like that, YouTube as well, so people can get the visuals. So obviously that's impactful when we start dealing with things like, Product Watch. And as you mentioned the lesson tee with Kevin Haime. I think people should realize that, the cool part for us is that we have a deep background in the golf industry, be it, marketing, publishing, golf operations. You're an honorary director for the PGA of Ottawa. I'm a Class A member of the PGA of Ottawa. So this is just not a couple of talking heads getting together and saying, hey, let's do a podcast. We've got a good depth of experience here. And you know what? That's going to be a fun part of the show as well. It's getting people's interactions and asking us specific questions or inquiring about certain things, because, that may shape what we do in regards to shows as well. I mean, as you mentioned, the front nine is going to be full of all sorts of things, but we could certainly be shaping shows around a certain topic that comes up that, we have a level of expertise in that we can comment on. And, we do have the ability to comment on, and we're just not providing an opinion, although it's an opinion of sorts, but at least an educated opinion on particular subjects that are important in the world of golf these days.
Well, and the thing is too, that we don't want, while any kind of show like this is there's a little bit of scripting that goes along with it, because you got to try to somehow follow some kind of pattern or you'll be rambling on forever. But we want this to be sort of a very unscripted discussion. We're not sitting here rehearsing weeks ahead of time what we're going to say and how we're going to say it and what kind of banter there's going to be. We want things to be very, I don't say loosey goosey. I'm kind of an off the wall kind of guy.
We'll call it organic.
Yes, very organic. I'm a very off the wall. God knows what's going to come out of my mouth from time to time. And, so who knows? The things that could be said and the things that could be discussed could be really interesting to people. So, I'm really excited and I want to get going on this right away.
All right. Well, why don't we get to it? Why don't we head for the front nine?
Yeah, exactly. So we're going to head to tee. The front nine is presented by Metcalfe Golf Club. Looking for fun golf at a great rate? Save 15% when you prepay. Visit metcalfegolf.com to book a natural setting, a pleasant challenge. Metcalfe Golf Club. And so here we go. Front nine, Scott. Let's get right into some of the the topics we want to talk about. I mean, I guess one of the big things that people are going to find out, and this is the Flagstick podcast, so there is going to be discussion about Flagstick from time to time, and maybe a little bit more so the first part of the front nine with this episode, because as a company, Flagstick Golf Magazine is taking a very different approach to how we bring the golf news to people this year, and I guess there's no easy way to kind of say it, but the print version of Flagstick Golf Magazine is no more. It's done, and there also is not going to be a digital version of the magazine itself. What does not mean that there won't be digital versions of special editions from time to time over the course of a year. We haven't decided that yet, but I like to call it maybe the end of one era. 25 years was finished last year. I mean, we celebrated our 25th anniversary season a little quietly, given all the pandemic stuff. We really weren't able to do a lot of what we wanted to do with the promotion of a 25th anniversary. But it's the end of one 25-year era, and I guess the beginning of another.
Yeah, for sure. And, I guess it's not so much of we won't call it a hard stop. We'll call it a transition more than anything, and maybe considered a hard stop as far as, a print itself. But, it's not like we haven't been doing a lot of things on a digital basis, as we mentioned, with the website and, social media, all sorts of different aspects, YouTube as it is right now, Spotify, Apple, all sorts of things as well. But obviously, yeah, a little bit different as far as not having the print, a physical publication, that you're dropping off at the golf courses. But, there's a number of factors that went into that situation. We don't need to get into all of them, but let's just say in the end, we feel that we can deliver what we need to deliver on a digital platform better, even with this aspect, the way that we're doing it. And, in the end, that's what it's all about. It's not about just us as a business. We're trying to take care of our community and our golf community. And, having the ability to make that transition, I think that's been a difficult thing within the golf journalism business, especially in Canada. We don't see a lot of regional golf publications expand out of their region or even exist anymore in print. And, it's a difficult thing to do. But we just felt that after much discussion with marketing partners, readers, listeners, people that, we talked to, we've sort of developed a different way of doing things, and digital just works out better for us right now.
And we did talk about this at great length, and people are going to have to understand, or people will understand, I'm sure, that this kind of thing was not like a snap decision. This was a very long discussion, many discussions and number crunching. And really, when it came down to it, it wasn't even really about the number crunching. And a lot of decisions like this, you think, okay, well, it's a financial decision. We're trying to, make the most amount of money possible. That's not it at all. It became a case of the delivery method of getting the news and the information and the content to the reader, to the audience that we had, was following a trend of a different direction, and we had to follow with it. We really did. And doing print, because we hadn't done print for 2 years because of the pandemic and not being able to have delivery locations, which is the bread and butter of Flagstick Magazine, is being able to deliver it to the golf courses. Not being able to deliver to golf courses hard copies of the magazine for 2 years really started to make you think. And at the same time, it trained, I'm not going to use the word train. It made us realize that our audience was looking for that news in different ways. And we saw the growth of the website traffic, and we saw the increased number of, the statistics on the newsletters that we send out with Flagstick Digest 3 times a week. We really saw more interest in that, more signups, more registries or subscriptions to the newsletter, because people wanted to get the news that way. And then you bring into the social media side of it, where, something happens nowadays, if we're not telling people what's happened the second after it happens, then it's already old news and we're behind. So this was, a very difficult decision. And I mean, it was a difficult decision for both of us, but I mean, it was, for me personally, it's probably the hardest decision with the magazine or with the business that I've had to make in the last 25 years is to not publish this. I mean, there behind me is
there's the May 1996. Right
exactly.
There,
Those that can see it on the YouTube on YouTube can see the very first edition behind me and other subsequent issues there too. I mean, it's very hard for me to look back there and say, okay, you know what? There's no more of those anymore. But you also look forward and say, okay, well, we're doing this podcast, and this podcast is really kind of the first big jump forward in the next era of Flagstick. We're not done. We're just reborn.
Right. And people will see a number of things that we're going to be talking about of, transitioning of things that we're going to be doing with the brand. But, one thing I think is important to sort of note in regards to the magazine, I mean, there was always two components to the magazine. We had news, which obviously we've talked about, and, it's important to have that delivery is not a month behind now. It is as current as possible. But that said, we weren't just a news magazine. We had a lot of profiles, rule book, product watch, stuff that's a little bit more evergreen, things that are more deeply researched, for an example. Those things are not going away.
No.
They're just going to appear on our website and in our newsletter and discussed on, a show like this and so forth. So, you can expect profiles. I mean, we've done over 200 profiles of people over the years. And you can expect that to continue. It's just going to appear on the website. And I think people will note as well, we'll be expanding things that we're doing on the website, more activity there. I know we're continuing a partnership with the Pga Tour, for an example, of some of their content. We've done that in the past. There's lots of things that we can do on the website. It's just a little bit more versatile as far as the platform. So all the things that you liked about the magazine are not going to go away. They're just going to be delivered differently, whether that's, seeing it on your computer, checking it out on your phone, whatever the case. We're in a position to do that delivery, provide that type of stories and information. And we're not going away.
Beautiful. And I'm excited about the new direction. Obviously we changed the logo, we changed the color scheme.
Yeah.
It was kind of like flipping the script. That 25 years, everything was black and red and gray. This next 25 years, everything is blue and nice and bright. And the future looks good for us. I know that for a fact. Okay, speaking of blue and blue skies, although no, what the heck is going on as we delve into the course opening discussion. We look outside on a day like today and say, what the heck is going on? It's minus 15. There's snow on the ground. I could have flooded the outdoor rink last night, and the kids could have been skating today. It's insane. But we do have some courses that are planning to open soon. And you've had your ear to the ground and getting a lot of text, the frozen ground, and getting some texts and whatnot from a lot of the golf course operators as to what do we see out there, Scott? Like what's going on?
Yeah, as you mentioned, today as we record this, we're having one of the lowest temperatures recorded in 40 years on this particular day. But, there are sunnier days ahead. What we'll say is that, we do have our course openings calendar up onto the website. People can have a look there. It's going to be updated all the time. Not many dates on it yet.
No, I was going to say there may have been some starting to formulate on there, but not really that many now.
Yeah, we had Gourlay down at Crooked Creek in Athens, Ontario. He was hoping to get open this past weekend, but, let us know. It was just a little too wet still for people to get out there, going to do too much damage to the golf course. But that said, Kevin Haime has gotten his range open early, as is their tradition, and people can look to the website with a little bit more of a story on that. This week, so that's helped as far as getting people out there and doing that. Caroline Baxter down in Archie's in Cornwall is expected to open this coming weekend. We're going to see that more happening in the next little while. So again, not a lot of dates on there yet. not a lot of information that I can actually put out because it's going to change a lot. And people should recognize that, all the dates that we tend to get this time of year are really weather dependent more than anything. So they're projected dates. So be prepared for them to, the goal line to change a little bit. Call ahead, obviously, but we'll try to get as many on there as possible kind of in the next month, just to let people know who is opening. But I would expect we're going to see ones down towards the Quinte area. Maybe your Timber Ridges get open sooner than later. Iroquois, which was open early last year, Prescott, all those down along the Seaway. We're probably going to see some earlier openings there. So just pay attention to the calendar there, and we'll get the dates up as quickly as we can.
No, obviously a lot of stuff down the 401 into your neck of woods, into Kingston, and even even into the GTA. They're generally ahead of us. So I mean, not that we're we're not really as on top of who's open down there, though we could certainly let people know. But chances are there's going to be a number of golf courses open further west that if people are really chomping at the bit, and if the cleats are clean and the clubs are ready to go and the golf balls are piled in the bag and they want to get out, they can probably get down to the little further west to get some golf in.
Yeah, and south as well. We're going to see a couple of golf courses.
True too, yeah.
Syracuse area as well, which obviously is now accessible to people, which it has.
I was going to say, not something that we've been able to discuss a lot in the last 2 years, saying, hey, why don't you head down to Syracuse and Radisson Greens? We used to go down there back in the day and Foxfire and whatnot, and you couldn't really talk about doing that much now. It's like, hey, you know what? There you go. You can head down there and play too. So everything's back on the table now. Isn't it great?
It is, and you mentioned on the other part of Ontario, I know golf courses like Feskew's Edge in Scotland, Ontario, down towards the other side of Hamilton. They're open. There's a bunch of golf courses in Southwestern that are open. I know Tarandawa usually gets open pretty early down in the Avon, just down past sort of Ingersoll, heading towards the London area. So we'll see a bunch down there open early. So if people are really, really eager and they really want to get the golf,
I can't take it anymore. I need golf.
Yeah. And already hearing of people, just going, hey, how far is it till I can get some golf? So, talking about maybe a Pennsylvania trip or something like that. But the season is definitely here.
Oh my gosh. All right. Now look at, as we're sitting here in the off season, months before golf starts, the golf industry is kind of like you get to, I don't know, free agent signing, and all of a sudden things start happening with the industry as far as management goes, and you start to see this head pro is going here and this head pro is going here, and now there's a new manager at this golf course, and this guy who was a head pro is now the general manager over here. So in the old days of the magazine, we used to have a section of the magazine called Pros on the Move. And it was never that big a section. It was a little bit here and there, but there's been a fair bit of action, in particular in the National Capital region, or the Ottawa region in particular, with some pros in management. Like it's been a little bit crazy, eh?
Yeah, it's been a busy year. It was a tough year in the golf industry last year. Not so much the fact that there weren't golfers, because there were plenty of golfers. The difficulty was staffing, which was a challenge, and
which is still a bit of a challenge for some courses.
Definitely, for sure. Human resources is definitely a difficulty, and we can talk about that a little bit more. But the other side of it is that the pace that people were working at. I mean, the golf courses were just pounded with people, and that's not easy to, as you mentioned, pivot and take care of those things.
You don't say that word to my wife; she hates the word pivot.
Yeah, so it just makes it more of a challenge as far as courses getting busier, people starting to get burnt out, and things like that. But but it also opens up golf courses to realize, maybe we need to move on to this person, or maybe a different person with a different set of skills, or whatever the case may be. So you always have movements in the golf industry. So, we particularly saw them in our region, the private clubs. Where the private clubs were sort of the biggest transition since the PGA of Canada Ottawa Valley zone. But Ones like, Roger Beale is now the head professional over at Rideau. He moved over from the Marshes. And, as you mentioned, it's a domino effect. Once one person goes, that opens up a spot at someplace else. So that meant, John Stevenson got the role at the Marshes as the head pro there. Same sort of thing happened at Highlands. Marc-Andre Piet was there, went over to Camelot. And as a result of it, basically Highlands comes open. Mark Lacombe goes into that position there. Big transitions at Rivermead this year. I mean,
very much so.
Yeah, so Jean moved on, and basically he's doing a little bit of a transition and kind of helping some things out. But Mathieu Perron, who was their assistant director of golf operations, has now moved into that director role. Basically, there's been a little shift there. Scott Mickelson has taken the teaching pro role. And then what's happened is now they brought in Sarah-Andre Landry from Pine Grove in Quebec, who I've not really met, but I've heard from a lot of people, is very highly respected. Really strong player, certainly written her name many times over the years as far as tournament play and so forth. But she has now taken on the role as the head professional, which, it's kind of nice to see. We don't see a lot of head professionals that are female in the region, if not beyond. And so that's a good one to see as well. And then Tyler Fitzgerald, who was previously at the Ottawa Hunt and before that at Scarborough, is now going to be the director of golf operations at Carleton. So that's just a taste. Obviously, there's some assistants and things that are moving around as well. We haven't even touched on, superintendents, assistant superintendents, but let's just say there's a lot of movement in the zone. And I know when we get to PGA of Ottawa events this year, I'm going to be like, oh yeah, where are they at now?
Yeah, exactly. You're there. Now we should mention too that position of director of golf operations at Carleton opened up because Cameron Gall, who was the head professional director of golf operations, has now moved into the GM position.
Yeah, correct. So again, that's a little bit of a shift, and but again, it's a good opportunity for a club to take someone that's familiar with the club and put them into that role rather than just kind of reaching out into the ether for people. Because I can tell you right now, it's very difficult to attract people. I mean, if not talking out of school here, but I know from our members on the move and our job directory section at the PGA of Canada, I mean, there's a lot of places that are still looking for staff. And I mean, we're talking, it's the end of March, start of April right now. And the fact that clubs are looking for head professionals and general managers at this time of year is, it's a little concerning more than anything.
Oh, no question. And you mentioned that, we haven't even really touched on superintendents or just like we could probably have a whole half a podcast just on the need for staffing at golf courses this season. So hopefully most of the golf courses figure it out, get some good people in there, and it as busy as I expect that this season is going to be, that people aren't as overworked, I hate to see people get burned out in the industry. It's already a busy enough season as it is. Yeah, exactly. And they're already they're not overworked, but they're already working to their max as it is to go through what they've went through the last couple of years of being that much more drained out. It'd be nice to see, some good staffing happen so that kind of thing doesn't happen again. So now we mentioned, we obviously told people at the beginning of the podcast that this was, we were going to touch on some things that were a little outside the region as well and beyond, especially as it relates to Canadians and how they're doing. And, the one thing now is that, in the old days when we talk about, Canadian professional golfers and how they were doing on the PGA Tour and the LPGA Tour and European Tour, it's like, okay, there really isn't a whole lot to talk about there. There's, maybe one or two here and there, and they're not really doing particularly well. So, talk about a Canadian guy missing the cut again. I mean, that's not really warm fuzzies, but that's not the case anymore. Our Canadian male and female golfers are just doing extraordinarily well, and this weekend was absolutely no exception to that.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, it's across a lot of places in the world, be it the Asian Tour or the DP World Tour, which is, the new name for the European Tour. We're seeing in the Epson Tour, which is formerly the Symetra Tour, the LPGA Tour, PGA Tour Latino America, PGA Tour Canada when it comes back soon. And we'll have some news on that in some coming shows. And then, working our way up to Corn Ferry. And then PGA Tour now, we've got 9 players, I believe, with status on the tour. Graham Dillette, of course, is not active right now due to injury. But every week, whether there's players that are coming through the Monday qualifiers and getting into some of the events, or the players that actually have status themselves, there always seems to be a Canadian near the top of the leaderboard. And, this past weekend, the Dell Match Play, which is one of the world championships, the only world championship this year, Corey Connors from Listowel, Ontario, ended up finishing 3rd, beat Dustin Johnson in that match. Yeah, it really is. I mean, his play has been fantastic. That's his 15th top 10 on the PGA Tour. It moves him up to number 32 in the world, doubles his earnings for this year. So I think he won $852,000. Just fun to watch. That ties his highest rank ever. He got to 32 after the Tour Championship, I believe, last year. But fun to follow. And this week, the Valero Texas Open is coming up, and Corey won that in 2019. Yeah, and then over on the LPGA, Brooke took the week off, although she will be back this week for the Chevron Championship, which was the ANA Inspiration, which was the Dinah Shore. But Maud-Aimée LeBlanc, who's a golfer that many people in the Ottawa region will be familiar with, and the fact that she won a Quebec Women's Amateur in 2008 at Camelot, including at that time shooting 63, which was a course record that ended up being broken by the winner this week on the LPGA Tour. But Maud-Aimée, she earned her 2nd top 10 of the year. She tied for 4th at that JTB Classic presented by Barbasol in Carlsbad. Just trending really well. This is a person who retired.
I know and
then came back. Had 9 top 10s on that Epson Tour last year. Worked her way back on the LPGA Tour. It's going to be fun to see her even back at the Ottawa Hunt Club later on this year.
Yes,
because she did play in that 2008 Women's Open that was at a Hunt previously. I can remember in particular she played either it was a pairing or it was a practice round with her, Sandra Gall, and Michelle Wee. And I remember thinking, man, this might be the tallest group I've ever seen on the LPGA Tour. So fun to watch. Did you watch much of that or any of that this weekend or any of the golf?
I kind of flip-flop back and forth between a bunch. I was watching a little bit of March Madness stuff. I was watching a little bit of the F1 race. I don't know why I'm getting so caught up in F1 right now. I think it's because of the whole Verstappen-Hamilton feud. It's kind of interesting. But I know I watched a bunch of the match play. And then I was going back, and then I watched some of the LPGA event between the semifinals and the finals, and then I watched it was kind of like, and I don't generally
crazy sports day.
Oh, it was insane. I honestly generally don't watch a lot of golf on TV. Unless it's a major, then I'm glued in pretty good.
Sure.
But for some reason this weekend, I don't know why. Maybe I just was having a lazy day and I just wanted to chill and watch golf. But I sat in the living room and I watched pretty much everything all weekend long. So it's extraordinary.
Do you prefer match play personally over stroke play? I'm it's sort of a loaded question because I know our discussions and things over the years, but do you think that was part of the attraction for sure?
I think it was a little bit. The only thing with match play that I have that's difficult on TV is with a regular tour event, you get to see a lot of different players. Now when the coverage is good, sometimes the coverage isn't that good and you end up following the same guy for 18 holes or same group for 18 holes. But
true.
That's the thing with match play is it's one and done, right? So the hole is over and you move on to the next hole, and it doesn't matter. There's no 2 shots behind, 3 shots behind. It's guys 1 down or 2 down. That anything can change. And it was really kind of cool to see with the match play the shot making. How Kisner would seem like he's completely out of a hole, and next thing you know he's tapping in for par, or he's rolling a 15-footer in for par. And Connors had one where he was off to the side. He pitched it, along the ground, rolled it up over a bank down on 3 feet from the hole and made the putt. And it's just like, wow, this is this is extraordinary golf that we're getting to watch here. So yeah, it's I'm a match play guy. What about you?
Yeah, for sure. And I think they've got a good home for the match play now. I think the golf course at Austin Country Club really lends itself to, as you mentioned, that shot making. A lot more drama on the back nine. They've obviously got lots of water in there, elevation changes. There's just a lot of creativity needed, and players they're willing to take those risks a little bit more in match play because they know it's only going to cost them a hole.
Yes.
That they know they have to kind of take that on, where they might play a lot more conservatively if it's stroke play and they're just trying to make sure they don't make a double and just make a birdie. So we tend to see some excitement and players make some good decisions and bad decisions, but I think that's part of the appeal as well. But Masters in 2 weeks.
I know. Very excited.
It's going to be good for sure.
Look at the drive, chip, and putts back. Which is exciting too. I always like watching that, and the women's amateur, the
ANWA.
Yeah. Right. So.
August National Women's Amateur,
yeah. So that's exciting to see that back too, because anytime that you get to, it's one thing to get to watch a different group of people playing Augusta. It's just another thing to be able to see Augusta National more. I don't know. Some golf courses you just like to see. You just like to see on TV, or I'd like to see them live. You have, I haven't, but it's just to be able to see it more often is a good thing. So yeah, it's going to be some exciting, and then we're getting into it. Like the season, you just feel like, there's a lot of things that sort of springboard the season. We always used to say the first issue of Flagstick was always a big springboard for the season, and the Masters is a springboard for the season. But the first issue of Flagstick was always out at the Golf Expo, right? I mean, it was always the Ottawa Gatineau Golf Expo, and that sort of launched the season. It was in March. We still weren't playing, but it kind of really got people excited. And
even if we had winter coats on.
Yeah, exactly. And then, and much like, us having to change directions, or the Golf Expo has had to change the way it's done things. And, this is once again, they went to a virtual version of the show, as opposed to they had the opportunity this year to possibly go back to an in-person show, but it was just a little iffy on, pulling it all together. And they decided to go a much different direction on this year's virtual show. And, but I guess, it went over quite well, and they had a lot of traffic at it. And we were a media partner sponsor again this year for it. It's just, I guess this is just the way things are going.
Yeah, for sure. And, that's why we sat down this week, or at least I did, with Greg Chambers, who's the chapter head of the chapter as far as the director for Eastern Ontario and Outaouais region for the National Golf Course Owners Association. And just to talk a little bit about the show, why they made the decision they did, how the show went, but also as well how the season went overall for their chapter members, and then what their expectations are for 2022. So interesting conversation. I think people will really enjoy it. And, Greg provided some nice insight, and it was nice to catch up with him.
Well, on that note, I'm ready for a hot dog and a beverage at the turn. So, why don't we take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll have that interview that you did with Greg, and we'll play that, and everybody can hear what Greg had to say about particularly about this year's Golf Expo. All right, you're listening to the Flagstick Podcast with Scott MacLeod and Jeff Bauder. We'll be right back with after this quick break and from our sponsor, TaylorMade Golf Canada. Don't go away.
Over the years, you've inspired us to make a lot of great drivers. But while we were making all these drivers for the present, we were also hard at work making the next generation of driver. Because where titanium ends, carbon begins.
All right, we're back. Thanks for hanging with us. If you did, hope you got something to drink, and you're settled in for we'll call it the back nine, the show. As we said, going into the break, we've got the golf interview with Greg Chambers that Scott had done. Now, before we get to that, I should mention, surrounding the Golf Expo, we had a contest that we ran. Yeah, I almost forgot. But I didn't. So we had a contest. One lucky new subscriber to Flagstick Digest was going to have their name drawn and could win a Cleveland RTX wedge. And we drew a name, and the name is Nick Savoie. Now, I can't tell you where Nick is from. Congratulations, Nick. I can't tell you where Nick is from because it was a name and email registration. So, yeah. But Nick, if you're listening, you'll get an email. And if Nick's not listening, Nick's still going to get an email. And Nick's going to get a really nice wedge.
That's a little bit of a reminder as well for people if they want to keep up to date on news and information coming from us. We have our free newsletter, Flagstick Digest newsletter, and we occasionally have contests and things like that. So there's a good opportunity to not only get that news and information directly to your inbox, but to also participate in contests and things as well. So just
we give away good stuff.
Yeah, we do. We
do give away, we don't give away. Anybody that's ever played in the Flagstick Open knows what we give away. We give away good stuff. So, all right. Having said that, here's the interview that Scott did with Greg Chambers.
Today, we've got a guest, a familiar guest to us. We've got Greg Chambers here. How you doing, Greg?
Hi, Scott. Not too bad. Thanks for having me today.
Yeah, for people that don't know, Greg is the regional director for the Eastern Ontario and Outaouais chapter, the National Golf Course Owners Association Canada. A big role, considering this was the primary initial chapter for the NGCOA when it was created, and is certainly a busy chapter with a lot of members. You can tell us exactly how many members there currently are now, but as we know, golf is booming right now. There's been a really big resurgence in the last couple years, which has led to some really good things and some other interesting issues and things as well. And, you guys recently had the Canadian Golf Expo, which sort of, kind of always kicks off the year. Everybody looks forward to those golf shows and so forth. But, again, this year, virtual, but on a slightly different scale than maybe has been done in the past. Why don't you take us through that a little bit? I think that took place, was it February 28th to March 6th?
Yeah, exactly. It's so what it is leading into it is that we do local shows, live shows in the past. We had 8 across the country, right from BC right across to Atlantic. With COVID, we had to kind of, I hate that word, pivot into such a 2021 term, into a virtual show because they just weren't available. We weren't allowed to, with government restrictions, jump into different parts of the country into live shows. What quickly turned from then, and some decided to do it, some decided not to do it, just skip a year. We went virtual in Ontario, and it was a blast. I'm not going to say we did the best job in the world, and that's why it was a blast, but I think there was just a lot of golf-starved, hungry people out in 2021. So we benefited from that, as well as our members, our exhibitors of the show had great, just turn the phone off, had great sales, great attendance, great. They ran contests to build the databases. So on all fronts, it was amazing. Then we get into 2022 and we're all ready to go live shows back into it again. It was a one-off and things quickly started to change probably around November of 2021. There was rumblings that different facilities weren't open to host live shows. And what was going to be in 2022, were they going to be ready to actually take in without masks and different stuff like that? And we, again, that word pivot, we quickly jumped into another live show. This time we went completely across the country. So you mentioned it, the Canadian Golf Expo. Do a timeout.
You're a popular guy.
It should be on Do Not Disturb. There we go. Is that we had to go in, or we decided to go into a full-blown Canadian Golf Expo. And that was all the shows that were virtual last year, and the ones that didn't do because they just did live. We went across the country. So it was great. I think we've talked about this, almost a perfect storm. Is that what have we done now? We've created such a great format, but we don't know what we're going to do next year. That's probably the best answer, is that it's great. We're getting more following. So where you're driving physically to a live show, you're getting more people from a bigger distance. Same thing with exhibitors, same thing driving and the cost of getting staff there and booking hotels. It's more cost effective for them to get there. Saying that, I believe the customer and some of the exhibitors really want to have that live show feeling. They want to, you know, kiss babies, shake hands.
Yeah.
I don't want to say get in your face. That sounds so intrusive, but it's have those conversations where maybe, you know, you might glance over it on a computer, but when you're talking, you know, face to face and, you know, somebody greets you in the aisle, you can actually have that conversation and say, hey, you know, where are you? You know, I've never played your course before. Then you get into a great discussion. So there is that need. And that's, I say the word perfect storm because the golf industry is booming right now. It really is a great, you know, I work in the industry, so I'm always selling it, but it's outdoors, it's exercise. We always say it's one of the only sports, and I'm a big hockey guy, that you can play with different skill levels and different ages. I cannot play with my daughter's hockey team. I cannot play with 80-year-olds on the same ice surface. But on a golf course, we could all be in the same group with handicaps, and even just nobody really cares about anybody else's score. You're just kind of moving along and keeping the pace. It's booming right now. It'll be neat to see what happens this year in 2022. Again, we just got off to a great start with what just happened at the virtual golf show. Yep. Is that sales were through the roof for a lot of our members, which is exciting to see, because to be honest, as positive everybody was with 2021 and 2020, no one really knows what's coming down the chute. Right. Are there going to be more openings? Is golf going to go down a little bit? Which we think it might a little. I think we probably peaked last year with things closed indoors, but I think we're smarter than we were way back when the Tiger era. We all just kind of sat back and waited for our tee sheets to fill. I want to give all the credit to the operators and the owners, is that they're prepared for this. They're working on, you know, let's keep the buzz going.
Right. Yeah. And really, I mean, I guess you're right. I mean, you have so much success as far as the virtual platform, but, you know, it does miss that social element of being face to face with people. And, you know, it's obviously something people are craving after this last couple of years, is that personal interaction. You know, it's hard to speculate again what you're going to do in 2023, but, you know, it starts to make you think, what are the good components and what can we take from the digital platform and add it into the element of the live platform? And, you know, maybe this has been a teaching moment to show you that there's a much better formula overall with a combination of the two that allows that wider reach. So, you know, somebody that, as you said, can't access the show because they're in some remote location, you know, but they can get the information, get access to the deals and so forth. And then also still have the ability for people, if they want to come and, you know, just hang out and talk golf. And really, you know what it's like at the shows. I mean, people, you can clearly see that they just want to come out and talk golf with people that, you know, want to talk golf as well.
Exactly. There's also that component of the manufacturers.
Right.
People who want to try out the clubs and stuff like that. The one thing you can't do virtually, Lee at Canadian Pro Shop Online does an amazing deal at Canadian Golf Club as well. An amazing, you know, kind of mending those two together and kind of giving you, you know, the best of both worlds, as much as you can't swing a golf club, but trying to give you all that information as possible and put it in front of you. But again, they want to get out to the demo range. They want to see all the manufacturers, all the reps, all that kind of stuff. I don't think I'm ready at the point now to make the decision and say, hey, everybody get online and we're never going to talk to anybody. We're never going to walk down the aisles and do that kind of stuff. So we do have some big post-mortem meetings coming up in May to kind of make that decision and kind of jump into it. Yeah, well, I think it'll be different, to be honest, 100% different across the country. Some of our bigger chapters, where there's a larger draw from across different provinces compared to, you know, the Ottawa Golf Expo was such a smaller knit group. And I think we start there and just try it again. I think we need to get back to that live and interaction, and we'll find out. But again, you hit the nail on the head, is that, you know, maybe the website where it was just a quick way to get tickets, maybe it becomes more of a feature where you're getting more information and you can maybe get some of the deals like a virtual deal compared to a live deal at the show. So yeah, all components. And yeah, everybody keeps talking about that word hybrid. So
yeah, well, you know, we're going to talk about it a little bit more because I think it really applies to the golf courses as well. And, you know, as you said, you know, you're out there with the golf course operators and seeing what's happening with their businesses. You know, again, restrictions changed a lot of things. Having new audience members and more people that are participating in the game all those things have changed the shape and the look of a lot of their businesses. What have you seen in that 2020, 2021? And we'll focus more on the, what have we done to sort of adapt and change rather than, here's the bad part that you're sort of forced into. And how do you think it will sort of affect what's going to happen as we move forward? I mean, what are you hearing for golf course owners? We don't have to use a specific example or anything, but just in general, maybe some ideas or concepts of what you've heard about how people are now, as operators, perceiving their business in ways that they can, be better moving forward.
Yeah, and I think I touched on a little bit is that I don't want to say the word smarter, but they're ready for it. Again, back to the big tiger drop. I think it was 2004, 2005, where it started to drop off a little bit. And we just said, hey, we're going to get back. It's going to be golf is golf. And it's going to be crazy like it was before. And it just kept dipping and dipping, right through until a few years ago, right before COVID. I think really the golf courses see the new golfers, which is great. The people that were playing 1 or 2 rounds a week, are playing 4 or 5. The people that were playing, 1 or 2 rounds a month are playing, once a week. And then we have new golfers that have never been into the sport before. So they're really cognizant of, let's keep those people. Let's make sure that they're still golfing. They may not golf as much, but we're going to keep them as golfers. And I have to give the credit to the operators and owners is that they recognize that already. Now they're getting creative in how they're doing that. They're having maybe stuff outside the box that we've never done before. A lot of wine and dines, a lot of new golfer I won't say wine and dine again, but really like a social event afterwards. Right. You have your hour lesson of new golfers and it's crazy on the putting green or the range, but then they're going back and they're socializing. Maybe they're not even talking about golf, but it's another avenue, another network to get together with. And then you have your diehards. Is that keeping them happy? Is that they can get all their games in? But again, you're not just sitting back and saying, yeah, here's a golf course, here's some greens, go play. Yeah. They're actually staying on top of them and listening to what they want, as well as keeping that tee sheet. Again, not first come, first serve, but really making sure that everyone's kept happy, I guess, is the way to say it, is that it's not the guy that's playing 7 or 8 times a week that's getting all the tee off times, and making sure everybody is in there. So the leagues have been a big thing.
Definitely. Yeah. And I guess it's in one sense, it's a good problem to have. Obviously there's a stream of customers that are coming in the door. There's an option there to, do some different things. What do you think golf courses will maybe do as well to maybe deal with the fact that their tee sheets are full already, as far as expanding their businesses, maybe their revenue streams, to take advantage of the fact they have a larger audience? Are you seeing anything in particular kind of out there that, they're starting to think about going, hey, you know what, this is sold out over here. What else do I do? And what other assets do I have as a facility to create other business opportunities?
Yeah, they're definitely getting away from the cheat sheet. They're definitely getting creative with the social events that you would never see at a golf course. And now they're hosting. Now they're kind of tying into that niche, whether it's their database that they have or a whole new group of individuals, like non-golfers that are coming out. Getting with the golf courses, we had our conference last November, and it was neat to see one of the ones that I hosted was on, they've built a part of their driving range, turned it into a 3-hole junior course. Awesome. Which I'd never even heard of, never even thought of, but they didn't want to bump all the juniors. It's great to say, I'm running a business. I want to get the biggest bang for my buck. And we all know how prices and inflation have gone up. Of course. It's easy to say, let's take the biggest dollar and let's tack the course. And then all the leagues and the smaller revenues get pushed aside, including the juniors. So a couple of courses had started, just building a 3-hole course. Maybe it's not to the same standards as the 18-hole course, but they're getting the juniors out. They're having an opportunity. They're getting creative rather than just turning that whole niche or that whole demographic away. They're really, we talked about some courses with their memberships instead of just, here's the price and you're playing as much as you want to play. They've set it up as, 50 games, 60 games, 70 games. And it's worked on both ends, is that maybe you're losing the person that plays 180 games during the year, but you're gaining somebody else that wants to be a member that can't play 100 games and doesn't see that value, but they can buy a membership and be a full member and all the amenities and all the perks with that at 40 games. So it's a 40-game package, but they're actually part of the membership, which is great, and that's really, golf is golf and we all love it. But I love the social aspect, and I think that's one of the things that makes golf a little more unique. You're playing against somebody, but you're still having a conversation. You're not trying to run them through the boards, and you can't talk to them until after the game in the bar. But the social aspect, I think, is a big niche, and again, the exercise and outdoors.
Yeah, I think we saw that last year. I mean, we saw a number of golf courses, kind of within this region that, because they were forced to do outdoor dining, they expanded their patios, they expanded their social spaces, as you mentioned, outdoors. Also realizing that, man, why didn't we do this before? We were sort of forced into that. But beyond that topic as well, I mean, you mentioned as far as the juniors and so forth. I guess the key thing that you're seeing is that golf courses are not only recognizing that they have an immediate demand, but they still have to build for the future, and they have to still consider what golf is going to look like 10 years from now. And they can't just turn away from that because there's immediate dollars coming in the door right now.
100% is that they could take the fast dollar now, lots of profits, lots of revenue, and then where are we going to be in 5 to 10 years if we turn away all these juniors, turn away all these new golfers, turn away these leagues. So you take a little bit of a cut, maybe kind of developing, but they're always developing. So you have somebody to replace, the 65, 75-year-old golfers that are playing the 100 rounds a year. It's great. It's really great. Again, I can't say enough about the owners and operators thinking in advance, not just taking the most dollars they can now, is thinking like, where are we going to be in 5 years? I have to make sure that I have that next group coming into the golf course.
And are you hearing more, talking within not only within the region, but obviously you connect with, your other regional directors and talking about around the country. Are you seeing more golf courses thinking about, renovations, redoing bunkers, doing capital projects now because they're in a position that they're able to?
Definitely. They're definitely putting money back into the golf course, which is great. Maybe they set that aside for a few years as we went through our lean years. Definitely putting more money back into it, but a lot of it isn't, and you would know this probably more than I would, is that era where we had to make it longer. We had to make the bunkers deeper, bigger. The tees were pushed back. How can we make the greens faster? It's almost like an ego thing where how we make the course harder. But really, they're focusing on now the golf course being, good for all different age levels and all different skill levels, but also putting money back into, you mentioned the patios, into I can think of probably 7 or 8 different golf courses locally that got into the simulators over the winter time. Is where now let's be a full year facility. We're going to be open now for our members and take care of them. And now it's really not just, okay, it's October, see you later. Hope you come back. And that's what it is. Hope you come back in April.
Right.
It's no, let's take care of them year round, but now our facility is open and now we can do other events and keep them busy that way. So it's really neat to see them, again, big picture thinking rather than just take the quick dollar during the golf season.
And I think really it's, it's all about cultural development as far as developing the culture of the sport and how people are connected. And I'm sure the owners and operators are always thinking about that as well. I know they are. They're thinking about how they can stay connected with those customers. And, it's a competitive business. And I mean, people do have options to go, wherever they want to go, if they can get membership or a tee time. But the fact that the courses are doing that and creating that culture a little bit more than, as you said, just the tee sheet itself, and that's your connection to the golf course. It's a positive thing to see for sure.
It is for sure. And I think maybe 40, 50 years ago, I remember when I was at Cedar Hill, they used to talk about that, is that you were a member and you did all your dinners, all your events, all your birthday parties at the golf course. Yeah. That was your life, was the golf course. You were a member. You didn't go anywhere else. It's not like that anymore. Is that you have different sports with the kids. You have different social groups. Mom and dad are both working. They're out of the house. There's different things going on all the time. So you have to kind of blend in with the other events, but you still want them to be at the golf course. You don't want them to forget about the golf course. So maybe you are doing some outside the box thinking and changing where they just do golf and they do everything else somewhere else. Now it's kind of blended in that there is other amenities and other stuff to do with the golf course.
Yeah, and you mentioned the simulators. I noted, this past winter, the number of golf courses are offering trails or walking, or in some cases they even have outdoor camping and other dining facilities and so forth. And it's nice to see that evolution. I think it changes the look and the shape of how people perceive golf courses. And as you said, places like golf courses start to become first options as far as hey, that's my favorite place to go as far as a restaurant is concerned. It's
Yeah.
their first choice, not, oh, well, I have to eat, so I'll just eat there. And instead going, hey, you know what? I love to go to my golf course. I'm going to go there because that's my favorite place to have dinner.
Exactly. And you mentioned it too, is that the trails and different stuff like that, where there wasn't a fee, whether it was a member facility or even a public facility, there was no fee for that. There is an expense for it, but they see the big picture is that let's make this part of the community. Let's make sure that we're keeping, top of mind rather than, again, just sitting back and waiting to fill the tee sheets. Let's make sure that we're progressive and maybe we get some new players out of it because now they know where the golf course is, or now they see what we can offer.
Awesome. One last thing, obviously the golf season is about to begin, hopefully sooner than later. What are your expectations overall as far as the season? Mentioned a little bit before, you're kind of, thought maybe that you peaked last year as far as the golf courses are concerned, but, what's your general overall expectation for the year ahead?
I think it's going to be great. I think we have those new golfers, and I think we're not forgetting about everybody else, is that we're going to be busy, which is great. And you can already see that with the membership waiting lists.
Oh yeah.
with the how the Golf Expo did with just regular package sales and stuff like that. It's going to be another busy year. I love that that's a problem. Is that the operators, owners have to get creative and try to, fill the tee sheets in the quiet times, but also I think there'll be less quiet times. Maybe not as busy as last year with everything opening up now. But I think they've done an amazing job of setting themselves up to succeed this year and years going forward. I think, again, we've grown the industry so much and we want to keep it at that same size kind of thing. We're not going to have a big drop off.
Well, that's perfect. We look forward to always catching up with you, and maybe we'll catch up again at the end of the season and see if your predictions come true and see where things are going from there. So thanks for coming on the show, and we'll catch up soon.
Again, thanks again, Scott.
All right. Great interview, Scott. I applaud you. It was a great interview. A lot of good stuff came out of that. And I know Greg has been doing the role at the, with the Golf Expo for quite some time now. And you talk about changing directions. That show has had to change directions. And that guy, he works hard.
Yeah, he does. Yeah.
To make this show happen. And I know this was a much bigger undertaking for all of the chapters of the NGCOA across the country to pull this together, and I think they did a really good job. I enjoyed what we had as a presence. The response that we got to the contest and the subscribers to the newsletter was probably the best that we've had in many years doing any kind of sign up. So good information and insight there.
Yeah, it was nice to hear from Greg for a number of things. And as people, kind of heard there, they're doing pretty much the same thing we are. They're trying to make different decisions of how to do things going forward and what's a better way. And in fact, something like the pandemic sort of forced their hand a little bit to find out, what's a better way that they can do things for their membership. So good to hear from him. As you said, he's a former, he is a PGA of Canada member, former president of the zone, works very hard, very diligently, and, is able to provide some really good insight on the industry because he is talking to those golf courses all the time, hearing what their issues are, hearing what their opportunities are as well. And I think as golfers begin to hear about that aspect and sort of respect that aspect of it, of what's going on at the golf courses, it makes it better for everyone because a lot of the times, unfortunately, maybe a golfer is frustrated because they can't get the tee time that they can get. Well, if you hear their side of it and you hear what is involved with the operations and you understand it, it makes it a little bit easier to swallow a little bit and realize what they face and the challenges that they face. And, they're not doing anything to oppose the golfer. They want the golfer.
Of course.
They want to be able to help them as much as possible, but there's certainly challenges with growth as well.
Exactly. I think that's something that a lot of golfers, they do appreciate and understand what goes into operating a golf facility. But a lot of them, they book their tee time, they play their golf, and they have expectations of, I expect the greens to be this, I expect the tees to be this, I expect this, I expect that. And it's like, you know what? Maybe if you just had a better understanding of what goes into their side of the business. Now, there are some that, frankly, don't give a crap one way or the other, and it's not got nothing to do with whether they have the staff to do it or otherwise, they just choose not to. But for the most part, golf courses want golfers there, and they want the golfers that are there to be extremely happy when they're there. So, don't think that anything that they're doing is to try to tick you off, because it certainly is not the case.
No, and we'll be sure to have some some guests on as we go through the shows that will explain a little bit more about some of those things that happen in the operations. And I think it's critical. A lot of times I talk to a lot of other journalists heavily active in the Golf Journalists Association of Canada and our board. And I think it's important sometimes for some of the people that are even working in the industry in that aspect of it, that media aspect, to maybe get into a shop and get behind the counter, or maybe go out and spend some time following a superintendent to see what they do day to day, and really appreciate it, and get it away from what you think they do to what they actually do. So
you did that a while back for one of the articles of the magazine. You did a day in the day in the life, and I think you did that with Eric Ruse at the Hunt Club. And eyes open, right?
Yeah, a little bit more. I mean, it wasn't like it was unfamiliar with me.
Your Bell Park days,
Dixon Entrance. I've spent I think a total of 4 summers that I worked on grounds crews. So pretty aware of what goes on. But again, that changes over time as well. And it changes for the different operations. Different operations have different challenges. So yeah, you mentioned that time spent with Eric Ruse going around the Ottawa Hunt Club, seeing their 27-hole operation from sun up to sundown. And the funny part with him is I remember getting there, and I actually got there before him, and he had a laugh because he thought there was no way I was actually going to get there before him, given that I was driving from Kingston to Ottawa. But there I was at whatever it was, 4:30 in the morning, and I beat him.
That's hilarious.
But yeah, it was good that way. But so that's something we'll explore certainly more as we work ahead in the show.
Now, one of the things about the beginning of the season, and one of the things that, for us, the first issue of the year was the hot picks issue. And, it was all about equipment, products, what's going on. We didn't have a hot picks issue, but we've had lots of equipment stuff. I mean, there's been no shortage of it since the PGA show in Orlando happened, and even before that, and leading up to today and where we're at, there's been a lot of equipment stuff on the website. Now, we said right off the top that part of the regular feature of this podcast was going to be product watch. And the reason for that, obviously, is because we got so much product to talk about. Who knows what's going to be in this product watch? It could be equipment, it could be products, it could be knickknacks, it could be just about anything, but
could be training aids, could be books.
Well, exactly. So I want to get into that. So, without any further delay, here's the product watch presented to you by Greensmere Golf and Country Club. Save 40% on all daily green fee rates with FlexPass. FlexPass for only $425 plus tax. Visit greensmere.com for more information. Come elevate your game at Greensmere. So, Scott, product watch. I think we're going to be talking about golf balls.
Yeah, we are. I mean, obviously, lots of new equipment comes out. I start to have a look. I know probably about. It used to be traditionally January, as you mentioned, the PGA show, but now the product cycles have changed a lot. In fact, some manufacturers will bring out new products, in the middle of the year. Supply chain things have changed the timing as well. In general, though, we'll be talking about. I'll be looking at products kind of October, November, December, things that are going to be coming out in January, March, getting sort of insight, talking to product directors, engineers, all sorts of things, trying to keep it straight because there are so many products that come out. But that's a great thing as well, because golfers are, they have their own way of doing things. You like certain things. I like certain things. Every single golfer is different. So no piece of equipment is perfect for everyone. And that's why we have the variety, which makes it great. And when it comes to golf balls, certainly there's a lot more on the market than there previously were. We see more brands out there. We also see brands sort of exploring different markets as well and realizing that there is a demand. So one golf ball that came out 2 years ago, and there was a new version of it, was TaylorMade came out with a golf ball called the Tour Response and the Soft Response, which has basically provided a more mid to slightly higher level golf ball, just under their premium TP5 and TP5X products that had a lot of the features of it. little short on maybe things like spin, didn't have maximum amount of spin, but no shortage of performance for golfers at a slightly lower rate. And what they've done this year is they brought out 3 new golf balls, and in that response family, they brought out a tour response, a soft response, and a tour response stripe, which is probably the most interesting one. And we'll get to that in a minute. And I've got one right here, so we can talk about that. But what we're looking at here is that when we get the tour response, it is a urethane cover golf ball. And urethane is used in the most premium of golf balls. They're TP5, they're TP5X, for an example. Very thin cover, gives it a soft feel in cooperation with the core, but it also helps increase the spin rates as well. And what they've done with this golf ball, the new tour response, is they've made the cover even softer than the previous one, about 12%. And they've also made the cover material a little bit more flexible. It's about a 70 compression ball, although compression is really not important as far as distance or whatever. Yeah. It's just a rating as far as feel is concerned. But this allows golfers to kind of get a higher level golf ball, something that sells for kind of around $45.99. When I tested it for spin rates, let's say a stock wedge that would be 9,000 RPMs, you might get 7,800. So it's not quite as much spin as you would see on the short game, but you're not losing much on the long game as well. And, frankly, that might be a good fit for some golfers. So that tour response came out. The soft response is basically a really softer golf ball. I think the compression is only about 50, really designed for that moderate swing speed player. Better price point even as well, around $34.99, using the ionomer cover, not a urethane cover. So it doesn't quite have the same responsiveness as feel, but for a golfer that maybe goes through golf balls a little bit more, they kind of, price becomes a factor on top of just performance. But the key one in all that is the tour response stripe. So the tour response stripe is basically the tour response golf ball with a very unique cover configuration. So you'll see it there. It is a 22 millimeter stripe that works around the golf ball. Also has an alignment line that's kind of in the middle of it. Very easy to see, easy to line up quickly, which is important for a lot of players, and they're trying to get on the putting green and see how they're going to line it up. Also, when you're putting, you can see that line. It's very visible. Even if you're chipping, it's very visible as far as how much the golf ball is not spinning, straight backwards with, no tilt versus something that's tilted this way because you've got your face and path kind of going off a little bit. So it provides some real visual cues. Again, not for everyone. Easier to see, it's easier to spot as well, but it just provides an option. Some golfers just want some visibility. I mean, these balls are available in kind of yellow colors as well for even a greater amount of visibility as far as just the plain version of it, not the striped version of it. But again, it's just a nice option from TaylorMade at a price point that's a little bit more affordable as well. So what are your thoughts on that?
I tell you, the stripe is a very unique design, but I wanted to go back to something that you were talking about there with with the tour response ball being sort of a step down from the TP5 and the TP5X. Yeah. And I think, going way back, there was such a difference or a gap between the player's ball, which, going back to Tour Balladas and even back with the Pro V1, there was a bigger gap between the higher level ball and the next ball down for people, as far as the quality of the materials that we use to make the ball. And, for that sort of average player that didn't want to spend $65 or $70 on a dozen balls, but didn't want to play something that was hard rock ball, like back in the day of Pinnacle Gold was a distance ball. It was like, to hit for,
it really had seeing that no softness and feel and really very, very low spin.
Yeah. It was either you paid the big bucks and you got this, or you paid the smaller bucks and got the 15 pack or the 18 pack of this, but the performance of this, the lower end ball for chipping and putting was much lower, but it was a cheap ball. Now you're finding that price point ball in the middle or even closer to the top end that's not overly expensive and has a lot of the characteristics of those top end balls, but you don't have to play the top end ball if you don't want to. So that's not something new this year. It's something that's been going on for a while, but it's just, when you're talking about the tour response and then I'm looking at the specs and the stats and stuff on the balls, I'm thinking they're not that far off from one another, but yes, if you're a better player and you really want the best performing ball for your game, you're going to have to go with a TP5 or a TP5X ball in the TaylorMade family. But if you're not, as focused on that, you can get the quality and the performance without getting the high end ball.
Yeah, and we should say as well, and I think I misquoted the pricing. I think it's $49.99 on the tour response. But we should say, when you go through a fitting process as well with a high quality fitter, not only are you fitting your golf equipment, you're actually fitting your golf ball as well.
Mm-hmm.
So in essence, though, we could actually find some golfers, maybe it's a golfer who delivers a little bit too much loft and they create too much spin. They might find this golf ball performs better.
Possibly.
For them. So the thing is that, while the top level golf balls from a company don't provide any compromises more than anything and maxes out everything that they deliver, in some essence, when you look at the fitting aspect of it, you could find something within there that actually fits that player better. And people should bring that into mind when they're thinking even about their golf equipment as well. Just because the club is the newest, the latest, the highest level that a company brings out, it may not always be the most suitable for you. So, I think the biggest thing is, trial packs are really important.
Mm-hmm.
Look at these golf balls, look at a trial pack, a 2-ball pack of going out and testing these golf balls, seeing how they perform for you, especially around the short game, and see how they match up with your 3/4 shots, your full shots as far as your wedges, then into your iron shots, and then your driver shots as well. And I think sometimes and bringing in the factor of alignment and visibility, lots of different things. And as we said right off the top, so many different factors play in there. I mean, I might not play that ball, but you might play that ball or one other ball or whatever, just because you like a certain feature of it more than anything else. So, and that doesn't make it wrong. It just means it's right for you.
Exactly. I mean, and now getting onto the stripe part of it, I'd have to see that ball up close a little more often and maybe hit some putts with it. You can hold it up to the camera as close as you want. It's not looking any different. Yeah. It's very unique looking, and its functionality is definitely something that makes a lot of sense. And again, it's an acquired taste. And it should point out to people, if you're listening and not watching on YouTube, this is a reason why you should be watching on YouTube if you can, because you're not going to see some of the stuff that goes on during the podcast that you may be hearing going, oh, what is he showing? What is he? Yeah. Subscribe to the YouTube channel if you want to get the extras, we'll call them, that you don't see on the audio version of the podcast. So no, it's excellent, and that's a great ball by TaylorMade, and it's just one of the God knows how many products we'll be able to feature and bring on the podcast over the course of the next X number of episodes that we do this year, however many that happens to be. But
well, the good part is too, I enjoy testing this stuff. I've got the capability. I've got a simulator that I have access to.
Yes, you do.
That I can test stuff out. I'm not trying to rub that into you. But
okay, it's okay. I'm okay with it. It's all right.
But able to look at this product and see how it reacts. And the hard part is all the time as well is, even though we've tried to look at it over the years, this is me testing it for me under my conditions, right?
Yes.
That could be different for another golfer. So I'm never going to definitively say, this is the golf ball for this person. I can tell you the characteristics of it, and you can see how that is suitable for you. But I'm never going to say, this is the #1 golf ball for a mid-handicap golfer. Anybody that says that, they're totally off. It really is an individual thing. All the testing aspect does is just gives me some more information that I can relate to you, much like I could say as far as the spin rate or the feel. If somebody asked me, oh, what's that golf ball feel like versus that? Well, off of this club, it felt like this for me. You might have to try that for yourself. So that's another good aspect for the Product Watch stuff. We'll continue to test products and provide that. It's still a subjective feedback, but it is feedback, and hopefully that helps out people. And visually, if they're not watching on the YouTube channel, I'll try to get some of the clips, and I'll try to get some of that stuff up on our Instagram and Twitter as well, if people want to follow us there. And obviously we have stuff up on flagstick.com on the website for stories and stuff that will have visuals of those products.
Perfect. All right. Well, that's, the Product Watch segment for this episode. Now, you know, another aspect of the game is getting better and improving, and it would be I think it wouldn't be much of a podcast if we didn't have some type of you know, golf instruction tip and you know, and what have you. And you know, when I first mentioned that we were going this direction to our good friend Kevin Haime, you know, Kevin's been a very long time supporter from an instruction and as a marketing partner with us, but you know, particularly from an instruction perspective, Kevin has always provided a great amount of content for the website. He's done, you know, the big feature instructions in the magazine over the last 25 years, the regular feature instruction tips for 25 years. We did the 25th anniversary video tip series last year, and he and his son Jake were heavily involved in revisiting many of the best tips that we'd done over the 25 years. So when I mentioned to him that we were going to be doing this, you know, lesson tee instruction feature on the podcast, and he was like, okay, when do you want to do it? Like, let's get at this. And, you know, what do you need from me? What can I provide? And he was, you know, he's all in from day one, which has been, you know, the story of, you know, yeah, there's lots of PGA professionals out there and lots of guys that, you know, can teach and submit instruction to us. But the thing with Kevin is he's always, you know, you need 40 tips, fine. Let's do 40 tips. And he has, you know, he videos them himself a lot. He has a crew that comes in and does that stuff, and is very professionally done. And he's always been a huge support of ours. So we're glad that he's on board with the instruction side of what we're doing. So, you know, with that, you know, let's get to, you know, let's get to helping people with their golf game a little bit on the podcast. And in this episode, Kevin's going to be using a frisbee to help us out with our body motion a little bit. So let's get to the lesson tee with the Kevin Haime Golf School. It's always the right time to play better, whether you need private lessons, a better short game, some putting help, or even custom club fitting. You can visit kevinhaime.com, and remember that better golf is a lot more fun. So let's head out to the lesson tee with Kevin and see what he's got to say, and see what he's going to do with this frisbee.
All right, golfers, this is one of my favorite comparisons when teaching golf. Throwing a frisbee. In golf, your body does not swing. That's called a sway or a tilt, and we don't want any of that in golf. What we want is the body to wind into itself or coil like a big spring and then release. And in my mind, at least years ago when I came up with this was my favorite comparison. The idea of turning the chest back, feeling the weight go to that back leg to throw this frisbee. Golf, just like throwing a frisbee, is a back load through unwind type of motion. It is not a lift or a swaying type of motion. Next time you're practicing here at the Kevin Haime Golf Centre, think about the idea of a frisbee and how we turn into the back leg and then release out of it.
All right. Well, if you didn't know that a frisbee could be used for more than just tossing it around with your dog, now you know how you can use a frisbee to improve your body motion. So thanks very much to Kevin for that. Now, Kevin's going to be doing tips, you know, throughout the next 40 or so episodes. Some of the tips will involve his son, Jake. Jake's really been getting heavily involved in a lot of the video instruction and tips that Kevin has been doing. He was a big part of the anniversary ones last year. And I'm sure that as the season progresses and as we see more you know, tips from Kevin, they'll involve Jake, and Jake will be taking the reins on some of them as well. Now, the interesting thing about the frisbee one is that lots of golf professionals use props to demonstrate, you know, different motions, different movements, different things in the golf swing. And they're not all traditional training aids. Like there's lots of good training aids out there that are developed specifically for things. And Kevin has used, you know, one of the biggest instruction features that Kevin did with us over the 25 years was the sports tip, where he used baseball bats and tennis rackets and skates, and like just hit golf balls. Last year with the anniversary series, he actually hit a drive well over 250 with skates on. So, and he's used elastic bands to demonstrate winding up and you know, all kinds of things like that. So, so one thing I like about that tip there in particular is that you can grab a frisbee, you can go in your backyard, and you can work on that kind of thing, right? So,
for sure. I mean, that's you know, it's something I know I incorporate as well into instruction. I mean, some of the best we'll call it training aids. We'll get them at the dollar store more than anything. All you're trying to do is you're trying to illustrate something to somebody to give them the feel of what they're trying to accomplish. Yeah. And that's sort of reinforcing that. So yeah, it's good to see as far as a drill like that, as far as the backswing and getting that feel. Lots of different cool ways to go about it. And your imagination is always running wild going, oh, what's available that I could use to do that? And I know I've developed a big bag of tricks over the years, and it's just a bag full of all sorts of different things. And, sometimes people think that, a $30,000 launch monitor is the key to your instruction, but sometimes it's a $2 soft football. Exactly. They can all play a role in instruction and helping a person get better.
Great. Now, so we had the lesson tee will be a regular segment on the Flagstick podcast. So make sure you tune in and listen to those tips or watch those tips on YouTube with each episode. I'm sure there'll be something that you'll be able to pick up in there that can help you out with your golf game. And obviously, if you want to see more tips, you can visit flagstick.com or you can check out kevinhaime.com as well, because he does have a lot of tips, quick tips and stuff up on his website. Scott MacLeod, we have trekked a full 18 here. I think we've made it through to the end of episode 1. It certainly has been, the butterflies disappeared about 2 minutes in, so that's a good thing. But I think we've covered a lot of really great topics in this episode, and I think we've set up what we, for the audience, what the podcast is going to be like, as we move forward, and it's only going to get better as we sort of, perfect our craft, as we, so to speak, as we move along here.
Yeah, it's just getting familiar with the format and how we're going to go about doing it. But we've got lots of great guests lined up, lots of thoughts for different products. Certainly, we talk to a lot of people in the industry all the time, be it equipment manufacturers, operators, all aspects of the industry. And we're going to bring that to the show and our connection to those people to the show as well. I'm looking forward to it, and maybe even for next week as well. I think I've lined up maybe a guest for next week to talk a little bit about what's going on with maybe the golf pros in the region, and also happens to be someone who's an operator as well, so we can talk about her experience and what's going on with her facility. So maybe we'll leave that as a surprise for now.
I like it. Let's keep the mystery in it. Well, that does it for episode 1 of the Flagstick podcast. I want to make sure that we thank Greg Chambers for being our guest this week. Make sure that we thank our sponsors, Greensmere Golf and Country Club, Metcalfe Golf Club, and of course our presenting sponsor, TaylorMade Golf Canada. Make sure you check out the new Stealth line of golf equipment at taylormadegolf.ca. Check us out on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And make sure you subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And don't forget about YouTube. Subscribe to us there, like us, click the little notification bell so that you get dropped every single episode as it happens. I am Jeff Bauder.
And I'm Scott MacLeod.
And always remember, go for the stick.